Friends, today we have two idiots acting like morons who wasted their life away in a manner best described as being stupid. But let's first start into the background of this story. You see, during the summer of 2000, shortly after graduating from high school, Leslie White, who's the victim in this case, began working in the photo shop of a Walmart store in Silver Springs Township, Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. Throughout the course of the events leading to her death, White lived at home with her parents and drove her new black Jeep Cherokee to work, as well as her classes at Harrisburg Area Community College, where she was a freshman. White had a particular interest in art and photography and was pursuing studies in these subjects. The prior year, her parents gave her a camera costing approximately $600, which she continued to use. Now, to put that into context, this camera that I'm using right now cost me like $200. We're in 2023. She spent 600 back in 2000. So you can imagine how good that camera must have been then. Nothing wrong with it, just an observation. During her first day of employment at Walmart on August 2nd, 2000, White met William Housman, who also started working at the store that day. White and Housman struck up a friendship which eventually became romantic in nature. Unbeknownst to White, however, Housman had been involved with Beth Markman for some time and was living with her in a trailer park in Newell, Cumberland County. In fact, Beth and Housman had cohabited for nearly 2 years, including a period of time in which they previously had resided in Virginia. Sometime in August of 2000, Beth discovered that Housman was dating White, which led to a series of escalating arguments between Beth and Housman. So you're starting to see a pattern, a love triangle. Oh no, what happened? Well, let's keep going. Around this time, Beth's friends and co-workers noticed that she began showing dark bruising around her eyes and neck and arms, which Beth attributed to fights between herself and Housman. Several individuals testified that Beth also became increasingly temperamental and expressed her anger toward White by referring to her as a fucking bitch and stating that she would kick her ass or kill her if she ever got a hold of her. At one point, Beth called White at work and White appeared frightened immediately afterward. By the end of August, when Beth realized that Housman had not terminated his relationship with White, she evicted him from the trailer and changed the lease to reflect her name only. Damn, that is a woman scorned, eh? Like, imagine that. I'm not only going to kick you out, I'm taking your name off the house, bitch. She also called the domestic violence hotline to obtain a protection from abuse order due to her fear that Housman might retaliate, and mentioned an incident in which he had previously broken into the trailer. No order was issued, however, because Beth failed to attend the requisite interview. Moreover, approximately 2 weeks later, in mid-September of 2000, Beth and Housman reconciled and she permitted him to move back in. Still, Beth did not place Housman's name back on the lease, and she told her probation officer the Housman would have to earn back her trust. Her probation officer testified that Beth wanted White to come to the trailer so that Housman could finally terminate his affair with White in Beth's presence. I'm going to tell you what happened in that scenario, but for now, that recipe does not sound good. Within a week after reconciling, Beth and Housman made plans to move back to Virginia, where it was thought their relationship would improve. Now, on September the 21st, 2000, they traveled to an area of southern Virginia where Housman used to work and told friends that they anticipated relocation to that region. And again, I've said it before, I live in Northern Virginia. Southern Virginia is a piece of shit. However, shortly after returning to Pennsylvania after this brief visit to Virginia, Beth suspected the Housman was trying to resume relations with White. That cheeky little devil, eh? As Skylar said in Gorilla Hunting, if men are not thinking on our wiener, we are directly acting on its behalf. Whether or not this was true, it is fairly certain that Housman and White were no longer dating each other at this time. Furthermore, White had become involved with a fellow student at her college. Nevertheless, there was evidence that Housman had not fully accepted this state of affairs, and Beth caught Housman in several apparent lies concerning his whereabouts and his dealings with White. Beth thus concluded the Housman was not being forthright concerning his intentions, which led to another series of altercations culminating on October the 2nd, 2000, when Beth again required Housman to move out of the trailer. Now I'm going to get on to the murder, but let's paint the picture again. You got one guy, two women. They're all pursuing the guy, he's pursuing both of them. What could go wrong? That evening, Housman disables Beth's car by removing wires from the engine. After the police were called to the scene, Housman replaced the wires. 2 days later, on October the 4th, 2000, at approximately 5:30 p.m., Beth was seen driving her car with Housman in the front passenger seat to a local Sheetz gas station. They parked, proceeded to the payphone, and called White at Walmart to make her come to the trailer. By the way, who takes the wires out of someone's car? That's just dumb shit. Housman placed the call and stated falsely that his father had died. He asked White to come to him in the trailer to console him. According to Beth, Housman told White that Beth had gone out of town and hence only Housman would be at the trailer when White arrived. This ploy was effective as White became concerned that Housman might be depressed over the supposed loss of his father. Thus, she left her shift early at 6:16 p.m. and drove her Jeep to the trailer to comfort him. When White arrived, Housman admitted her into the living room and the two began to talk. Beth remained in the bedroom with the door closed, and White initially did not know she was there. Subsequently, while White and Housman were sitting on the couch conversing, Beth came out of the bedroom and stood by the front door. Beth testified that she did this because she was having trouble breathing due to her asthma and needed fresh air. She also stated just before coming out of the bedroom, she heard White cry out because Housman had struck her on the hand with a hammer and her hand appeared swollen. In any event, shortly after coming out of the bedroom and standing by the door, Beth acted together with Housman to subdue White, binding her hands and feet with speaker wire and placing a large piece of cloth in her mouth, as well as a tight gag over her mouth and around the back. With White bound and gagged, Housman and Beth stepped outside to smoke a cigarette and discuss the situation. Upon returning to the trailer, Beth held the victim down, while Housman strangled with her speaker wire and the crook of his arm, killing her. During the struggle, White reached up and scratched Beth on the neck, leaving dark red marks. According to the medical examiner, White died of asphyxiation caused by Housman's strangulating actions, together with the blockage of air due to the cloth stuffed in her mouth. So you see what they did? They lured her to the trailer by saying, "My father died, come help me, I need you," and then they both killed her. After the killing, Beth retrieved a canvas tent from a shed near the trailer while Housman waited inside. She and Housman wrapped the body in the tent and placed it in the back of White's Jeep. They then drove in two cars, with Housman driving White's Jeep, followed by Beth in her own Buick sedan, to Housman's father's home in Franklin County, Virginia. And just so you know, Virginia is important in a sense because it actually borders Pennsylvania. FYI. They ultimately disposed of White's body by placing it in the trunk of an abandoned car in a remote area of neighboring Floyd County. On land owned by Housman's mother, they also discarded White's personal effects, except for her camera, which they sold to a pawn shop. Told you, the camera was pretty valuable. Housman and Beth remained in Southern Virginia for several days, staying alternately with friends of Housman and with Housman's father, and continuing to drive White's black Jeep, which Housman held out as his own. After White's parents filed a missing persons report, authorities tracked the Jeep to Housman's father's house. Franklin County Police Officer Brian Vaughn went to the house to investigate and interviewed Housman and Beth separately in his patrol car concerning the Jeep. At this time, nobody except Housman and Beth knew that White was dead. While in the officer's vehicle, Housman indicated that the Jeep was borrowed from a friend. He then went back inside his father's house, and Beth came out and sat in the police vehicle to answer questions. She did not contradict Housman's claim that he had borrowed the Jeep from a friend in response to the officer's questions. She also denied that Housman had ever been abusive toward her. Following this incident, Housman and Beth concluded that the Jeep was a liability and disposed of it on the same piece of property where they had hidden White's body. Notwithstanding these efforts to conceal the evidence, the police soon discovered the Jeep, as well as White's partially decomposed body in the abandoned car, still bound and gagged. They arrested Beth and Housman at a friend's house the evening of October the 11th, 2000, exactly 1 week after the murder. The police also retrieved White's camera from the pawn shop and developed the film inside of it. The film contains several photographs taken after the murder. These photographs were described for the jury. In one of these photos, Beth appears to be laughing while Housman pretends to choke her. Each separately confessed to having participated in killing Leslie White. The confessions were recorded on audio tape and transcribed. Housman admitted that he killed White by strangling her, but claimed that Beth had instigated the homicide to eliminate the source of one of their problems so they could start their new relationship. I mean, I'm going to come to my conclusion, trust me, you don't want to miss it, but that's so dumb. He maintained that Beth had directed him to tie White up and strangle her, and that Beth forced compliance by striking him with the hammer that she had in her possession, and then spinning it around in her hand in an apparent threat to use it again if he did not obey her orders. He stated that after the victim was killed, Beth, who was a certified nursing assistant by the way, used a stethoscope to verify the absence of a heartbeat before wrapping the victim's body in the tent. Who the fuck brings out medical instruments? Huh? For her part, Beth also conceded that she had participated in the killing, stating that she initially bound and gagged the victim and later held her down while Housman strangled her. She insisted, however, that Housman concocted the murder scheme in order to steal White's Jeep. Sorry, love, American cars, they're not worth that much. And then Housman had coerced Beth into aiding him into this endeavor by threatening to kill her with a hunting knife if she did not obey his orders. Beth contended, moreover, that Housman also wore down her resistance by threatening and terrorizing her throughout the previous night, holding a knife to her throat and forcing her to remain naked in the bedroom of the trailer. She omitted any mention of a stethoscope and stated that she only realized the victim had passed away when the latter's trousers became wet, indicating a loss of bladder control. Following the denial of Beth's motion to sever her trial from Housman, the two were tried together in Cumberland County Court from October the 22nd through to November the 5th in 2001. They were tried on one count each of criminal homicide, kidnapping, unlawful restraint and abuse of a corpse, and 2 counts of theft by unlawful taking of disposition, as well as conspiracy as to all of these offences. Housman elected not to testify during the guilt phase of the trial. During this phase, the Commonwealth played for the jury an audio tape of Housman's confession. The tape was altered so that references to Beth were redacted. The tape was played. Beth objected that allowing the jury to hear it in an obviously redacted form would violate her Sixth Amendment confrontation rights. The trial court overruled the objection and allowed the jury to hear the tape. The court informed the jury that the tape had been altered to include the words, that these were not Housman's actual words, and that the jury should not draw any inferences regarding the insertion of these words. Beth testified in her defense and asserted that she had been physically abused by Housman during the course of their relationship. She repeated her specific allegations of coercion on the night of the murder, placing them in the context of a broader pattern of long-standing physical abuse by Housman. Oh, shut up. Didn't you take his name off the house? Muppet. She also added significant details concerning the crime, including an assertion that Housman had terrorized her for 2 full days prior to the murder, during which time he had cut her clothes off with a knife, repeatedly abused her and threatened her, and put a .45 in her head or sent her home in pieces to her daughter. He would do this if she did not do as he instructed or if she tried to escape the trailer, and he ordered her to write a letter to White stating that she had moved to Virginia and was no longer involved with Housman. She stated as well that when she and Housman went to the Sheetz convenience store, she was not aware that Housman was planning to call White until he actually called her, and that when they returned to the trailer, she tried to escape twice, but each time Housman prevented her from doing so in a violent manner. Beth stated further that even after White was bound and gagged, she did not know that Housman actually planned to kill her. In this regard, Beth testified that when she and Housman returned to the trailer after smoking a cigarette, White's gag had slipped down from her mouth and White requested some water. When Beth went to the kitchen to get her a glass of water, Beth heard screaming and Housman began to choke White. According to Beth, at that point, Housman ordered her to come back to the living room and pull the gag mouth back over White's mouth. Beth complied, and after Housman continued to strangle White, it ultimately became apparent that White had died. Beth maintained that she obeyed Housman during this time and did not attempt to prevent him from choking White because she was afraid that he might kill her as well. As for her statement to Officer Vaughn, the Housman had never been abusive, she explained that she was only trying to protect Housman. Finally, concerning the photograph, she stated that she was laughing because Housman was poking her in the side and she is ticklish. Ticklish? That's your excuse? Imbecile. Now, a Cumberland County jury found both her and Housman guilty of first-degree murder and they were sentenced to death. But in February 2007, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned Markman's conviction on the charges of murder, kidnapping, and unlawful restraint and ordered her a new trial in the case. You want to know why? Because the court agreed that Beth's claim the Cumberland County Trial Court should not have allowed the jury to hear an edited audio tape of the confession she made, because this implicated her in the murder. So then in 2010, she pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. Following this, Leslie White's parents, George and Shawnee White, addressed both Beth and the judge during the case. They said, as to what Beth has done to our family, the last 10 years have been literally hell. The last 4 years of appeals, we haven't taken a vacation in a decade. I want to know what Leslie went through and what my family went through. Referring to Beth's sentence, George, the father, expressed his frustration at the death penalty being taken off the table. I don't feel that this is justice, he said, if it was your daughter or son that was strangled in the way my daughter was. In response, the judge said, I have daughters. I can't pretend to know your loss. However, he explained it was his job to abide by the law and life imprisonment was mandated by the law. See, the father actually said, Beth is going to go to a jail that has air conditioning. She has heat. She'll have clean sheets every night and food on the table. She has no one to care for in the world. I don't feel that's justice at all. The first ruling of the death penalty was just. Not that she would die anytime soon, but just so she doesn't know what day she's going to die. That's actually a very important point. Following Beth's sentence to life in prison, Shawnee White offered one parting wish for her daughter's killer. She said, while she's sitting there, watching cable TV in her jail cell, I want Beth to know that every time she sees a McDonald's commercial, she'll never go through a drive-thru again. Every time she sees an ocean scene, I want her to know that she'll never smell the ocean or feel the sand again. And if her daughter ever gives a grandchild, I want her to know that she'll never rock them to sleep. Wow, that's pretty deep, huh? So, to my conclusion, now the reason why this story fucked me off is because I've had my heart broken many times. I have been in relationships in the past where with a girl and another man was involved and this man was chosen over me. Right? Been there. And it broke me. I even still have the memories in my mind. I became numb. In fact, it broke me so much, I don't think I've been the same person since. Which I think is the case for everyone. Anyone that's been through a heartbreak is never the same, right? It's just a matter of fact. But I never once thought to myself, oh my god, I'm in so much pain. Oh my god, I'm so jealous. Oh my god, that I'm gonna go and kill him. Like, what the fuck? Fuck him. But more importantly, fuck her. And some of you are gonna comment saying, I don't like you cursing. It's a crime video, you muppet. What do you expect? But generally, how stupid and pathetic do you want to be? Generally, I find it pathetic. You know, when people come to me or I've heard people who are depressed over a relationship, I get it. Pain is a mother. Pain is a bitch. I get it. But all you have to do is be patient and it will go away. And in this case, both of these thought, okay, we have a problem. We want to move to Virginia, but apparently this girl, Leslie White, wants me so bad, right, that I can't get rid of her. I mean, if you look at this guy, that's a future sex offender anyway. So these two geniuses decided, well, instead of just telling Leslie, we don't want to be with you, or I don't want to be with you, why don't we, invite her over the house and kill her? What the fuck? See, Housman has a lot to answer for because he was the most important person in this story because he simply had a choice to make. All he had to do was let go of one and then move on. But my guess would be is that he was with Beth. Maybe he even wanted to move with Beth, all that stuff, but he still had an attachment to Leslie. And through some means, whether it was mobile phone or whatever, he was probably still seeing her, or he was still talking to her, or he was still wanting her, or whatever. All he had to do was let go, but he was too much of a pussy to do it. Death penalty? Yeah, 100% correct. As for Beth, just another Muppet on the Muppet train, eh? Anyway, thank you for watching.